Hey guys, welcome to the show. Today, I want to talk to you about the Barbie movie. I actually bought a ticket for the movie last yesterday and I sat through the hour and 54-minute movie. It was complete torture from beginning to end. It was absolute torture. By the way, I hopefully this we can Josh can get this video out so like on Monday or Tuesday rather than Thursday, just because it's timely. And but he just, as you know, Josh just had a baby, so I don't know if he can get to this right away, but hopefully that will happen because I this movie I still have PTSD from it. I mean, last when it was over, uh, last evening, I left the theater and I was so just rattled by the whole thing and so just traumatized by it because the themes of it were so just insanely feminist and feminist propaganda. And I mean, basically, when I was watching the movie, I was like, this could just be a course at UC Berkeley in women's studies on feminism. Like the whole movie was a feminist propaganda brainwashing scheme. I mean, and it was directed by Greta Gerwig, who of course is a feminist, and her partner Noah Baumbach, who's also a director. um, I don't know if they're actually married, but they call each other partner because, marriage is just silly and outdated. So they're just partners. Um, they live in New York. And first of all, the movie is just a mess to begin with. The plot points don't make any sense. Um, Ryan Gosling stars with Margot Robbie plays Barbie and Ryan Gosling plays Ken. And all of the other Kens in this Barbie world, it's like a fake fantasy Barbie world, and all the Barbies in the Barbie world are Supreme Court justices and powerful, and they have all these major careers, and all the Kens in this fantasy Barbie world are complete fools and idiots and don't know what they're doing. And uh and so it's just but the plot points in the movie, it was like it doesn't make sense. Like it's like Greta Gerwig was trying, and her partner Noah Baumbach was trying to create a story, and it doesn't work. There are so many weird just holes in the plot. And the in the beginning of the movie, Helen Mirren does a voiceover, and she says things like, she says Barbie became so much more. She's talking about how Barbie was created. There's this whole kind of scene in the very beginning, and it's reminiscent of 2001: Space Odyssey. And at the beginning of that movie, the prologue to it, and so it shows these little girls bashing baby dolls' heads on the ground, and then Barbie appears. Barbie comes out, and and Helen Mirren in her voiceover says that she became so much more than because now she has because in the beginning Barbie was just kind of a doll who didn't have much. She was just a doll that started out as a lady in a bathing suit, but now she's so much more because she has money and she has her own house, her own car, her own career, and anything that women can have. And it's she says, Helen Mirren says, whatever women have in the real world is reflected now back on Barbie. And so and then she says something to the effect of, if I can remember this right, she says something to the effect of, thanks to Barbie, all problems of feminism and equal rights have been solved. And so and so the word patriarchy in this movie is used, I don't know how many times. Like, all of the Kens are the patriarchy, the Barbies and people, humans in the real world, the women in the real world are constantly talking about the patriarchy and toxic masculinity. And so again, this movie, it just is such a feminist anthem, and it just bashes men so incredibly, uh just egregiously. Um and then Barbie has this moment in the movie where, let me just remember what happens. She has this moment where they're doing like a dance routine. All the Barbies are doing a dance routine with the Kens. And she has this moment where she realizes that she has this idea of death. The idea of death occurs to her. And I can't find it right now. But uh where is it? Yeah, so she has this idea of death, which is uh it's unprecedented for Barbie to think of anything sad, because all the Barbies are perfect and happy, and they live in this perfect plastic Barbie land. So she has these un-Barbie thoughts and experiences, and she thinks of death. And then her feet, in her high heel shoes, her feet, which are molded for high heel shoes, suddenly become flat, and her feet basically touch the ground. So that's just kind of like a nod to feminism as well. It's like she doesn't need high heels, like, and obviously women don't need high heels, but it just is like just more feminist propaganda and brainwashing. And by the way, I mean, there were so many young girls in the movie when I was there, and they were all loving it and laughing, and I was just thinking, like, this generation, this young generation it's like they have no chance. Like, the amount of brainwashing that's taking place is insane. By the way, I pretty sure, I looked it up, but one of the Barbies in the Barbie world is a trans person. This Barbie is played by a trans actress, and I'm pretty sure that's the case, because that seemed like it was the case. So of course, all the bases are covered, right? To be as woke as possible, and as culturally, relevant as possible. And so once Barbie's feet touch the ground, she wants advice from a misfit version of a Barbie doll, uh, who gives Barbie a pair of Birkenstocks. And basically, she offers Barbie, Margot Robbie, she offers her a pair of high heel shoes or Birkenstocks. It is basically like the red pill or the blue pill in the Matrix. She's like, do you want to stay kind of Barbie and happy and not have any complications, or do you want to discover who you really are and go into the real world? And so Barbie ends up taking the Birkenstocks, even though at first she doesn't want to. And then somehow, it just is bizarre. This is one of the plot points that just doesn't make sense. Somehow Barbie and Ken tags along with her. He pops up in the back of her pink convertible car, because he wants to go with her, because Ken's basically in love with Barbie, and Barbie wants nothing to do with Ken, right? Like, none of the women Barbies they want nothing to do with any of the male Barbies, like, which is crazy. So men are just completely dismissed, and but Ken somehow sneaks into the back of Barbie's car, and so they start driving and on this kind of desert road, and somehow end up, I don't know how this even works. They don't explain it. It's just somehow they just end up in Los Angeles, in the real world. Actually, Venice Beach. Like, they end up in Venice Beach on rollerblades. So Barbie and Ken are rollerblading on the beach, on the sidewalk near the beach in Venice. And Barbie is astonished while she's rollerblading. All these toxic masculine guys are like whistling at her and uh, saying all these really sexist things to her, and so she is astonished to discover sexism because she's never experienced that before. And of course, it's so over the top in this movie. I mean, the guys are just like, they're basically like construction workers, just whistling at her and yelling things at her. And then Ken is happy to discover patriarchy because he sees these kind of, he somehow like it's intertwined with horses. Like he goes into like a cowboy shop or something, and he sees like, real men, quote unquote, like being masculine and doing masculine things and riding horses. And so Ken discovers patriarchy, and he becomes, in the real world, Ryan Gosling becomes this super, toxic, quote unquote, toxic masculine guy. And Barbie just, is just shocked at how sexist the world is. And, and then the movie, the reason Barbie is in the real world is because the reason she kind of had the malfunction in Barbie land, and the plastic Barbie land, is because apparently somebody in the real world, a human in the real world, was playing with her or doing something with her in a very aggressive way or in a wrong way. And somehow that made her think of death. And so the whole point of her coming to the real world is to track down the human that was playing with her so she can resolve the situation. And she ends up tracking down, she finds this young girl, this like, elementary school girl. I think she's elementary school, or I don't know if she's high school or elementary school, but she finds this young girl and in a high school in Los Angeles. And she thinks that it's this young girl who played with her in the wrong way, or like, just like did radical things to her or smashed her around or something. And so she approaches this girl in the school cafeteria, and the girl is like, I don't play with Barbies anymore. Like I stopped playing with Barbies when I was 5 years old. And the girl, this young girl, they make her into the most extreme. I mean, this poor young girl, like this actress, they make her into the most extreme, bitter, hateful feminist. I mean, it's just absurd. But then it turns out that her mother, it's actually her mother who was doing the changes with Barbie. Her mother, played by America Ferrara, I don't know how to say her name, but her mother works at Mattel. Mattel created Barbie. Her mother works at Mattel, and apparently this is another plot point that just is so bizarre and doesn't make any sense. So they show her at her desk doing sketches of Barbie and like doing kind of weird versions of her. And apparently that's what tripped up Barbie in the plastic world. These like dark sketches of Barbie like tripped her up. And so she tracks down America Ferrera and the mom of this daughter, and they basically go on this adventure. They, all three of them, the Margot Robbie, the Barbie, and America Ferrera and her daughter, they all go on this adventure to try to solve the problem, which still, again, doesn't really make any sense. So, and by the way, all of the executives at Mattel, all of like, there's like, I don't know, 12 executives at Mattel, and they're all like straight white men, or I think they're all, they may not be all white men, but they're all men. And so of course they're just toxic patriarchy, and that's how they have to, these three women on this adventure have to rebel against these and all the CEO is played by Will Ferrell, and all of these CEOs, all of the people at the executives at Mattel are just complete and utter fools and idiots. Of course, like the men have to be idiots. And so then Barbie somehow resolves that, right? And she goes back. I don't. This is just like the plot does not make any sense. And then she goes back to Barbie Land. She and Ken go back, and she goes back to this plastic world, and you kind of, in any other movie, Barbie and Ken, Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling would sort of get together in the end. Like they would, get married and live happily ever after. But no, that's not the case. Because Barbie decides that she wants to leave Barbie Land and basically become human and move to the real world again. And the creator of Barbie in real life, her name was Ruth Handler. And in the movie, she's played by Rhea Perlman from Cheers. I don't know if you remember her. But Ruth Handler says, Barbie is upset. And Ruth Handler says to Barbie, why are you upset? Like you saved Barbie Land from the patriarchy. So again, I mean, I'm telling you the word patriarchy and patriarch, like that word is used, I don't know, probably 24 times in the movie. It's so insane. And then Ruth tells Barbie that she says this thing that was really disturbing. She says, dolls go on forever, but humans have only one end. And something like and it's not, and it's not a good end. Like basically dolls live forever and humans don't, is what Ruth Handler's saying to Barbie. Which is not true, of course. Biblically, all human beings we all live forever. Whether we're in heaven or hell, we all live forever. All human souls live forever. All human bodies live forever. Because we're going to be resurrected in our body. So, of course, this Ruth Handler has a materialist worldview where human beings we're just time plus chance plus matter. And then when we die, we just no longer exist. So that's another message that these young kids get from this movie, that humans, once we die, that's it. Like there's no life after death. There's no hope. So, and then Barbie asks Ruth permission to make her human. And she says, but you don't need my permission. And then Barbie says, but you're my creator. It's so just like blasphemous. Like, anyway, it's crazy. And then Barbie ends up, there's this kind of moment between Ruth Handler and Barbie in this giant studio, and they are having, these kind of this like super sentimental moment with them holding hands, and basically Ruth Handler just lets her go and lets her become a human. And so somehow, again, who knows how this happens, but Barbie ends up in the real world. And the last scene of the movie is Barbie ends up with America Ferrera and her daughter in their car, and they're driving around Los Angeles, and you don't know what's going to happen. And the very last scene is Margot Robbie gets out of the car as a human, and she walks into this office, and you don't know what's happening. And the very last line of the movie, it's just like, you can't make this stuff up, guys. I mean, the very last line of the movie is she walks up to this desk, and there's a woman at the desk, and it's apparently like a doctor's office. And she says, "I'm here to see my gynecologist," and that's the end of the movie. So that is, supposed to be like super feminist, ending. So yeah, that's kind of the movie. And again, Ken is played by Ryan Gosling, is just, he is the butt of every joke. He is, a fool, an idiot. Uh, he even says, like, I can't. There's no Ken without Barbie, and so basically, there's no men without women. I mean, it's just, and so I seriously left this movie just almost shaking, because I was just like, I can't believe the amount. I mean, this is like, as I said in the live Q&A the other day, like, this is worse than like Chairman Mao of China, the Cultural Revolution and the brainwashing, the re-education camps that went on. And this movie is literally re-educating all of your children. Please do not let your children see this movie. It is horrendous. Not only, as I said, not only are the themes bad, but the plot points don't make any sense, and it's badly directed. It tries to be a Wes Anderson kind of movie, but it fails miserably, and the plot points are terrible and make no sense. And it's just, again, this modern feminist movement is so toxic. So it's toxic femininity is what it is, and not toxic masculinity. And it's so toxic because what it does is, and I've talked about this so many times, it pits men and women against each other. It makes men the bad guys in our society. Women are without fault. They're completely faultless. And men are terrible and awful and toxic and patriarchal. And of course, this is why I say this all the time. This is why the divorce rate is so high in this country and in the West, because this constant drumbeat of this modern feminist movement that portrays men as awful and evil and toxic and stupid. And so one of, like, when a woman, like in the New York Times, when you hear about a woman divorcing her husband, like a famous person or whatever, the New York Times reports that as a good thing. It's almost like you become empowered as a woman if you leave your husband, which is so crazy. And I say this all the time too. When we do that, when we destroy the biblical design of men and women that God designed, such a beautiful way, a complementarian ways, where men and women are equal in value, but have different roles. And when we abandon that, we see all of the destruction around us, including, broken families, broken marriages, broken people, mental health issues. I think this all feeds into the trans movement, the trans situation that's going on now, the social contagion of that, I think, is a result of all of this, and partly, and it leads to all kinds of things like homelessness and other things, and basically the decay of society. So it's just so disturbing and depressing, but we all know that God has the final word in the end, so we need not be too depressed or fear, because God is in control, and God is going to make all things right in the end. So we know that the ending of the real story, of the God story, is going to have a very happy ending. If you're a Christian, it's going to have a very, very happy ending. So Yeah, I just I beg you not to. I'm really sad that I spent money on this movie because I don't want to support the movie, but I had to do it. And by the way, I like there it was sold out. Like all the screenings yesterday were practically sold out, so I had to sit in like the fourth row. Right, the screen was like right here, so my neck. I was like craning my neck the entire time to watch this movie, and I was like getting dizzy from being so close to the screen. But yeah, this is this is not. Oh, and by the way, there's this one moment I just forgot this. There's a one moment at the near the end, back in Barbie Land, and the president, the president of the president is Barbie. One of the Barbies is a president, and all the Supreme Court justices are Barbies, right? And one of the Kens, not Ryan Gosling, but one of the other Kens, asked the president, "Can I be a Supreme Court justice?" And she says no. She said, "No, you can be some sort of lower kind of circuit court justice or judge." Um, and so again, it's just like in this movie, all the women, the women, all the Barbies have all of the power, and the men have zero, and they're kind of just goofy and just doing goofy things throughout the entire movie. Like they have no direction and no so it just again it is such an insane movie. Please don't go see it. And yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else about this movie. I wrote down a bunch of notes, but yeah, it's just shocking that this movie is doing so well. And I think that the reason it's doing well is number one, it's about this iconic doll Barbie, but also because I think they spent, I don't know how much, millions and millions of dollars in marketing. And of course, Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling are the two stars. So that's, I guess that's a draw. But anyway, I just had I wanted to see the movie just so I could, because I already knew a lot, some of what the movie was about. I knew it was a feminist propaganda machine. So I wanted to talk about it and just warn you guys not to go to this film. So thank you guys for watching. I will see you next week.